Patience is one of the most critical things that you have to have as a Rule 1 investor. I'm sure I've said this before and you've probably heard it before, but our investing strategy is simply laziness bordering on sloth. And what we mean by that is we almost always do nothing. Doing nothing is almost always the right answer. But occasionally we take really aggressive action. Now, when I say we're doing nothing, what I really mean is we're just kind of going about our lives, doing our lives like we're doing them, but we're reading the books on companies, we're reading 10Ks on companies, we're just getting deep into our canyon so that we can build a little list of companies, what we call a watch list of 5 to 10 companies that we really understand that we want to buy. And then we're done. That's really it. From that point on, you're checking in about once a quarter on these 10 companies to take a look at how they're doing, and you of course continue reading. Maybe you can find an 11th company. But essentially, as I've said before, if you end up with 20 companies in your entire life, you've done it right, 20 max. So what are we doing? We're being patient. We're essentially just sitting there waiting for this company to do what it inevitably will with the fluctuations of the market that are natural to the market movement. The market will put this on sale. In fact, Ben Graham, who's Warren Buffett's mentor, came up with this brilliant idea that the market itself is actually like a person. He calls him Mr. Market. That Mr. Market is this person that's pretty normal most of the time, meaning that Mr. Market will price businesses at what they're worth much of the time. But what people don't understand is that Mr. Market is also manic depressive. When he gets off his meds, he can become irrationally exuberant and just think, woo, this is always going to go up. And he'll price things higher and higher and higher and higher, ridiculously high. And in that market, we want to be a seller to Mr. Market. On the other hand, Mr. Market gets depressed, then the sun's not even going to come up tomorrow. There's just hopelessness everywhere. And in that case, we want to buy great companies from Mr. Market. So Mr. Market is our partner. And what we want to do is be very patient for Mr. Market to go deeply into one of these emotional crises where he's either extremely overexuberant and we can sell, or he's extremely depressed and we can buy. And patience is where we're at most of the rest of the time. It's really quite fun when you think about it. You do the work, you get a watch list, and then you're patient and you wait. And what comes from that is great wealth and generational wealth. Some of the techniques that have been evolving over years to improve our ability to be patient and do nothing are probably good for some of you to know. Some of you can do nothing very, very well already. You're very good at it. But some of you might need a little help in doing nothing. And I can tell you that I go way back with some techniques here that I think are very practical for kind of staying balanced. And I think there's one in particular that is called transcendence. This is the idea that you have some method that you practice regularly of going past your normal thinking process, just into a state of no thinking. And out of that comes a lot of bliss, certainly, and people experience that, but also a kind of centeredness where the waves of the world just don't impact on you as much as they would if you didn't have this practice. So where do you get this practice? Well, Kobe Bryant, great basketball player, got it when he played basketball. He would go down the court and go into the zone and find that he wasn't thinking anymore. He couldn't see the crowd. He didn't have opponents. The ball just goes through the hoop. Magnificent time that he called the zone. Michael Jordan, same thing in basketball. Long distance runners experience that. Long distance swimmers experience that. But the place where most people experience it is some sort of mindful meditation, some kind of alert meditation process. In a religious perspective, it would be contemplative prayer. And a lot of great religions have contemplative prayer built in. In fact, there's a great book called The Seven-Story Mountain, written in 1949 by Thomas Merton, who was a Catholic monk, who was inspired to look at other religions to see if they also had this concept of transcendence, kind of communion with God idea, and he found that it was everywhere in the world. So this idea has been around for a long, long time. When I was just a young guy, I came back and I started to learn to meditate. You're doing transcendental meditation. And so that's been my practice for 40 years. Ray Dalio, probably the greatest macro investor in the world, learned transcendental meditation about the same time I did. So we've both been practicing this for a long time and finding that it's fundamental to this idea of patience, equanimity, balance in your life. I think it's one of the greatest things you could ever think of doing. So the idea is go find what works for you. I went over to Japan at the invitation of the gentleman who's known as the Warren Buffett of Japan. His name is Wahei Takeda. Wonderful, wonderful human being. He was 84 at the time when I was asked to come over and meet him. He had read my book, which is amazing because this guy was a multi-billionaire, 84 years old. Why would he be reading investment books, right? To give you an idea about what great investors do, they read. And he wanted to talk to me about it. So I spent a few days with him, and he was remarkable in his sort of transparency about his practice. His practice he called maru, and he called it maru because it's sort of a Japanese word that encompasses thanksgiving and gratefulness, but doing it with a perspective that says that I'm really grateful for you guys watching this video. I'm really grateful the sky's blue, or I'm really grateful it's raining today, right? And he would do that 1,000 times a day, and it would cause him to transcend. And he got so into it that he decided that all the companies he invested in should be doing this, should have some method of transcendence. And so he would go to the CEO of a company he bought into and he'd say, come around to the point of, I think you should practice maru. And the CEOs that picked it up, and I mean, one guy had a choir that sang songs of Thanksgiving every day. If they picked it up and passed it through the entire industry, those CEOs, he stayed with those investments. And the ones that didn't, he just quietly took his money out. And Wahei thought that one thing was the trigger to billions of dollars. So he made me promise that I would tell you guys all about that, so I am. It's a great technique. And Melissa and I do that. We wake up in the morning and try to find 3 things real quickly, write them down that we're grateful for that day, and it just starts the day off in the right way. So whatever your practice is, find one that helps you stay balanced, helps you stay centered, and allows you to practice patience. Well, that's it for this week's video. If you're new here, or if you found this helpful, just subscribe to our channel for more education like this on a weekly basis.